Hiya. Hi, welcome to Ask Me Anything Facebook Live with me. I'm Cath King. I'm the plant-based nutritionist and I'm the creator of the Eat More to Weigh Less program. And this week I was contacted by a young girl who's a student at Burnside High School, and that's my old school. And she's writing an article about veganism for one of her subjects, and so she asked for my help. And unfortunately, we weren't able to find any time to meet in person for an interview, but she's emailed me her questions, and so I'd like to use this Facebook Live session today to answer them. But before I get to her questions, I'm going to just be a bit pedantic for a while, and I'd like to point out that veganism is not a diet, and I believe that the best definition of veganism is one that was created by the Vegan Society in the United Kingdom, and that states that veganism is a way of living which seeks to exclude as far as possible and practicable all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. So, veganism is actually a belief system that's based on compassion for all living beings. And the purpose of veganism is it's not about individual health, and being vegan is not necessarily equated with being healthy. But, you know, like everyone else, vegans have to eat something. And so for many people, the idea or the belief that you can't be healthy without eating animal products prevents them from taking that step of eliminating them. So I do think that it's really important for all vegans to eat in a way that optimizes their health so as to break that stereotype in the wider population. And the way of eating that we're talking about that does that is what's known as a whole food plant-based diet. And this was a phrase that was coined by Dr. T. Colin Campbell to describe a way of eating that is devoid of animal foods and devoid of processed foods. And his research and the research of many, many others has shown that this is the healthiest way of eating. And so what that all it means is that you eat whole plant foods, or possibly those that have been minimally processed. And so it just so happens that this way of eating also just happens to be vegan. And so when I'm answering the questions today, that's the way of eating that I'm referring to. I'm referring to a whole food plant-based diet. I'm not talking about Linda McCartney sausage rolls or angel food mozzarella. I'm talking about vegetables, fruit, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds. So our student's first question is, as a vegan, what foods should I eat to get the protein and iron I need, and how much is required? And okay, this is a great question, because the protein question is often the first kind of obstacle that people have, and the first thing that people are often asked by family or friends. And so it's important to know that, first of all plants contain protein. And protein is just chains of amino acids. We need to know that plants are amino acid factories. They make amino acids. In fact, you know, plants are nutrient producers, whereas animals are nutrient consumers. So animals don't make nutrients. So for all the nutrients that we're talking about, whether that's protein or iron or calcium or anything like that, we don't need to go through the body of an animal to get to the nutrients that the animal got from eating plants in the first place. You know, we can just skip the middle animal and go directly to the plant ourselves. And, you know, if you eat cows to get protein and iron, well then you kind of need to ask, well, where did the cow get the protein and the iron from? Because as we know, cows don't make amino acids and they don't make iron. And I've actually got a whole series of videos on protein on my YouTube channel that people can watch to get some more in-depth information about particularly protein. I think it covers all the different protein myths, the different myths we have in society about protein. But just basically today, as far as the plant foods that are really high in protein, we can look to beans and legumes, and also to non-starchy vegetables like broccoli or spinach. So these are all great sources of protein. And we should be getting about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of healthy body weight. So that means that if you're 65 kilograms, and if that means that you're at a healthy BMI, then you should be consuming 52 grams of protein each day. And then if we extrapolate that to a percentage, if you were to eat a typical kind of 2,000 calories per day, that means that about 10% of your calories can come from protein. And that's so easy to do if you're eating whole plants rather than processed foods, and if you eat enough calories. You really don't even need to consider whether you've had enough protein. It'll just kind of happen automatically. And you know, it's also good to bear in mind that the research shows that this amount of protein, the 0.8 grams per kilogram of healthy body weight, actually meets the needs of 99% of the population. And that means that most people need even less than this. And yet most people in New Zealand are getting about double this amount of protein each day. And this is one of the primary reasons that we have such high disease rates. Okay, in terms of iron, now firstly there are the two different forms of iron. There's heme iron and non-heme. Meat contains heme iron and plants contain non-heme. And in the past, non-heme iron was considered to be inferior because the body generally absorbs a lower percentage. But we now know that consuming non-heme iron actually gives the body more control over absorption efficiency. So that means that if our iron reserves are low, the body absorbs more iron from plant foods, and yet then if we've got lots of iron floating around, we can absorb less iron. Whereas with heme iron, the heme iron in meat, that's absorbed about the same rate regardless of what our iron stores are. And that can be a real problem, because once iron has been absorbed, the body has only very limited mechanisms for ridding itself of any excess iron. And iron is a pro-oxidant, so that's the opposite to an antioxidant that people want to get lots more of. And so too much iron can damage our DNA and a lot of other molecules, and this damage can go on to lead to things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and arthritis and diabetes and some cancers. So that means that getting your iron from plant sources is really protective. And some good sources of plant-based, some good plant-based sources of iron, again, we come to the legumes, beans, chickpeas, lentils. They're probably the best source, but also things like green leafy vegetables, oats, pumpkin seeds, and also some dried fruit. And if you can consume these iron-rich foods with a good vitamin C source like citrus or red bell peppers, that can also increase your body's ability to absorb the iron. And the recommended daily allowance for iron in men and for postmenopausal women is 8 milligrams per day, and for menstruating women it's 18 milligrams per day. And so it's quite quite a bit higher for women who are in their childbearing years. And her next question was, do I need to take supplements? And I would answer, yes, you probably do, but you need to take as few as possible, because we really should be getting our nutrition from foods as much as possible. The only ones that the only one that really is non-negotiable in terms of supplements is vitamin B12, and so B12 and vitamin D are the only nutrients that that aren't made by plants. So if we look at vitamin D is, it's actually more of a hormone than a vitamin, because it's made by our own body when our skin is exposed to sunlight. And vitamin B12 isn't made by plants, and it's not made by animals either. It's made by microbes, and these microbes line the guts of animals like cows that people eat, and so their bodies can be sources of B12 for those who do eat animals, but it's really not the best source because of all of the baggage that kind of comes along with it. So just like we can't get the iron in beef without the saturated fat, we can't get the protein in pork without all of the lard, we can't get the calcium in dairy without the hormones, we also can't get the B12 in animals without consuming stuff that we don't want, like cholesterol. And we used to get enough B12 from drinking water from rivers and wells that had bacteria in them, but now we kind of treat our water supply to kill off any bacteria, and so we don't get a lot of B12 in our water anymore. And as Dr. Michael Greger says, we don't get a lot of cholera either, so that's a good thing. And so to get enough B12 without putting yourself at risk, supplementation really is the best thing that we can do. And other than that, vegans really have no more need of supplementation than those who eat meat. And some people will benefit from taking specific supplements if they are deficient in that particular nutrient for some reason, like a digestive issue or being lacking in the soil in the area that they live. But there are really, in general, there are no other nutrients other than B12 that we can't get from plants. Okay. Now the next question she asks is a vegan diet really healthier than a non-vegetarian? And the answer is, well, it depends. Some vegan diets are not. If you're eating chips and Coca-Cola or bread and jam and vegan cupcakes, it's likely that a well-planned diet that includes some meat will actually be healthier for you. But if you're comparing a non-vegetarian diet to a whole food plant-based diet, then yes, a vegan diet is definitely healthier. And I don't think anybody makes this point better than, again, Dr. Michael Greger, to quote him again. He says that there is only one diet that's ever been proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients, a plant-based diet. If that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the #1 killer of men and women, shouldn't that be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be effective in treating, arresting and reversing other leading killers like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. And I have to agree. You know, what's so convincing for me with a whole food plant-based diet is the breadth of evidence. So while a single study can be found to support almost any idea under the sun, what are the chances that hundreds, even thousands of studies show this hugely protective benefit of plant-based foods, and the harmful effects of animal-based foods for so many different diseases. You know, we can't say that it's due to coincidence or bad data or biased research or misinterpreted statistics or people playing with the numbers. So yes, in my opinion, there is no doubt that a whole food plant-based diet is healthier than one that includes meat, dairy or eggs. Okay, and that kind of brings us to her next question, which is, how does being vegan improve my health? Because, you know, there are so many ways that being vegan can improve your health. Now, a teenager like you may not notice any difference because your bodies, well, our bodies, everyone's bodies, are really masters at covering us. They cover for us and they cover for all of the stupid things that we do to them. And your body will continue to do that for as long as it can. But you start to see huge benefits as you reach kind of my age or even earlier, when our body just can't cope anymore. It can't cover for us anymore. But I guess that the main ways that being vegan will improve your health are things like maintaining a healthy weight, preventing diabetes, cancer, and things like cardiovascular disease, and also preventing many autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or Crohn's. And it's also important to realize that eating a vegan diet does more than just improve your own individual health, because it can also improve the health of the entire planet, the environment, ecosystems, waterways, the oceans, all those sort of environmental concerns that are so prevalent now, that are so weighty in terms of what's going on in the world. So finally, her final question is, what advice would you give someone who was about to make the switch to a plant-based diet? And I think that I would say, just do it. Just do it and figure things out as you go. Eat real food, eat lots of vegetables, eat a variety of foods, take a B12 supplement, educate yourself so that when others question your decision, you'll know the answer and you're not going to be swayed by their comments. You're not going to be swayed from the course that you've decided on. And there are so many resources and so many recipe blogs available now, so there's also no excuse for not really enjoying your food, not eating really good tasty food. Get social support, because eating this way in our carnistic society can be kind of lonely. So get involved with things like the Vegetarian Society and the different vegan groups. Go to potlucks, maybe volunteer for SAFE. Anything that makes it easier to live this way. And finally, I guess, be a joyful vegan. You know, you're an ambassador for veganism wherever you go. You don't need to preach to others to influence them, and you don't need to be a closet vegan. You know, own it. Be the vegan in the room. Be proud of your decision. So thank you so much for your great questions, and that's about all I've got time for today. I'm not sure when I'll be doing another Facebook Live, but if you do have a question, please just comment below, or you can email me at cath@seekinghealth.co.nz, and I'll do my best to answer it next time. And until then, take care.